It is late now, the kind of late that arrives quietly without announcing itself. Outside, the world feels thinner, colder, more still. Maybe the sounds have softened where you are. Maybe your body is heavy, tired in a gentle way. The kind of tired that does not ask for effort anymore. Only rest. Winter has a way of meeting us in moments like this, not as a season on a calendar, but as a feeling, a slowing, a deep exhale after a long year of movement. Even if it is not winter outside your window right now, the idea of winter can still arrive within you, calmly, naturally. You might notice your breathing beginning to lengthen, not because you're trying to change it, but because your body recognizes something familiar in this stillness. Cold nights, early darkness, the quiet permission to stop pushing forward. Welcome to AstraFlow. Here, science drifts like starlight, and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts slow down, your breathing find its rhythm, and your mind float through wonder. Winter is not a season of emptiness. It is a season of hidden work, of energy folding inward, of life choosing patience over urgency. And tonight, you're invited to do the same. As you settle in, you might gently wonder, are you listening to this as part of your nightly routine, or is this a rare visit, a quiet place you found only tonight? However you arrived here, you belong in this moment, and if this calm journey brings you peace, you can gently support AstraFlow by liking this video or subscribing. It helps this quiet corner of the cosmos keep glowing. Winter teaches without speaking loudly. It shows us that slowing down is not falling behind, that rest is not the absence of life, but a different form of it. Across the planet, as Earth tilts and turns, entire landscapes learn how to wait. Trees loosen their grip on leaves. Animals tuck themselves into hidden spaces. Water stills. Light softens. Everything adjusts. Not in resistance, but in cooperation. Tonight, you don't need to remember facts. You don't need to hold on to ideas. They can drift past you like snowflakes in the dark. Noticed, and then gone. Let the words be a gentle presence. Something moving slowly beside you like footsteps on fresh snow. Soft, unhurried, barely there. Now, let's begin tonight's voyage into the quiet story of winter. Winter invites a quiet question, one that does not demand an answer right away. It asks what happens when a world chooses rest instead of growth, when motion becomes smaller, slower, almost invisible. In a culture that often celebrates movement and brightness, winter turns gently in the opposite direction. It does not rush. It does not explain itself. It simply settles in. As the days shorten and the nights stretch longer, the planet itself seems to lower its voice. This is not an accident, and it is not a failure of light. It is part of a rhythm far older than human memory. Earth leans slightly away from the sun, and that simple tilt changes everything. Temperatures fall, shadows lengthen, energy begins to gather inward instead of spreading outward. You can feel this question echo quietly inside your own body. What if slowing down is not something to resist, but something to trust? What if rest is not an interruption of a life, but one of its essential movements? Winter suggests that nothing is being lost when growth pauses. Something else is happening instead, something quieter and deeper. In nature, stillness is rarely empty. Beneath frozen ground, roots remain alive. Beneath snow, insects and seeds wait patiently. In the dark oceans, currents continue their slow, steady paths. Winter does not stop life. It asks life to change its pace. As you listen, there is no need to think your way through this question. Let it float near you, like cold air on your skin, present but not demanding. You do not have to solve winter. You only have to notice it. Notice how the idea of rest feels when it is shared by an entire planet. Notice how your breathing responds when nothing is rushing you forward. This question will stay with us gently as we move through tonight's journey. It will return in different forms, wrapped in snow, silence, and long nights. For now, it is enough to let it settle beside you, calm and unfinished like winter itself. Winter is often described as cold, but cold is only the surface of its story. Beneath the temperature, winter is a shift in balance. It is the season when Earth turns slightly away from the sun, changing the angle of light, shortening days, and lengthening nights. This single movement, small, precise, and predictable, reshapes weather, landscapes, and living rhythms across the planet. In scientific terms, winter is not caused by distance from the sun, but by orientation. The hemisphere tilted away receives sunlight at a lower angle, spreading the same energy across a wider area. The light becomes gentler, less intense. Heat escapes more easily than it arrives. Over time, air cools, water slows, and the surface of the world begins to rest. But winter is not just a physical process, it is an atmosphere. The sun rises later and sets earlier, creating long stretches of darkness that feel spacious rather than empty. Sounds travel differently through cold air. Even familiar places appear calmer, as if softened by shadow and quiet. For living things, winter is a message written into biology. Growth gives way to conservation. Energy is protected, not wasted. Some creatures sleep, others migrate, many simply become still. This is not retreat. It is adjustment, a form of wisdom shaped by millions of cycles. Humans, too, are part of this system, even if we forget it sometimes. Our bodies respond subtly to winter's signals. Hormones shift, sleep patterns change. The desire for warmth, closeness, and rest grows stronger. These responses are not weaknesses, they are echoes of an ancient alignment with the seasons. Tonight, as we move deeper into winter's quiet science, you do not need to hold on to every idea. Let them pass through you slowly. Let winter remain what it has always been, a gentle rebalancing, a soft dimming of the world, and an invitation to slow down without apology. Far above the quiet of winter nights, Earth continues its steady motion through space. It spins, it travels, it keeps time with extraordinary patience. Winter begins not with cold itself, but with a simple angle. Earth is tilted on its axis by a little more than 23 degrees, and as it orbits the sun, that tilt determines how light arrives. In winter, your half of the planet leans gently away, as if lowering its face from the warmth. This tilt does not rush. It does not surprise the planet. It is the same each year, repeating with calm precision. Sunlight still reaches Earth, but it comes in at a shallower angle, spreading itself thin across land and sea. The energy is softer, less concentrated, like a lamp dimmed slightly, not turned off. Because of this, days grow shorter. The sun traces a lower path across the sky, rising later and setting earlier. Shadows lengthen, and the light that remains feels cooler, paler, more distant. Heat slips away more easily than it is replaced. Air temperatures fall slowly, allowing winter to arrive not all at once but in layers. You might imagine the planet itself becoming drowsy, not asleep, but easing into a slower rhythm. Oceans continue their deep movements. Winds still travel across continents, but everything feels less urgent, less driven by intensity. Even storms, when they come, belong to a larger pattern of balance and release. This tilt is not a mistake or a flaw. Without it, Earth would not have seasons at all. There would be no winter, but also no spring, no summer, no autumn. Life would lack the gentle punctuation of change. Rest would have no season to call its own. As you listen, you may feel a quiet comfort in knowing that winter is written into the geometry of the cosmos. It is not something to overcome. It is something that belongs. Just as Earth leans away from the sun for a time, you are allowed to lean away from effort, from brightness, from constant motion. For now, it is enough to tilt toward rest and let the planet carry the rhythm forward. As winter settles in, daylight begins to feel precious. The sun rises later, moves more slowly across the sky, and disappears earlier than it did before. These shorter days are not abrupt. They lengthen gradually, almost unnoticed, as if time itself is stretching. Morning arrives softly, and evening seems to wait just around the corner. This change in light is one of the most powerful signals in nature. For plants, animals, and humans alike, the length of the day shapes internal clocks. When light fades earlier, the body responds by releasing hormones that encourage rest. Melatonin rises more easily, alertness softens. The rhythm of waking and sleeping begins to shift, gently guiding life toward longer nights. In winter, breathing often changes too. Cold air encourages slower, deeper breaths. The body instinctively conserves warmth, drawing energy inward. You may notice this now, without trying. Each breath arrives a little more fully, leaves a little more slowly. There is no hurry in it. The air feels dense, steady, reassuring. Long nights create space for thought, for memory, for nothing at all. In many cultures, winter evenings became times for stories, quiet work, and shared silence. Without long hours of daylight to fill, attention turns inward. The mind wanders more freely, unpressured by schedules or expectations. There is a subtle beauty in this contraction of time. When days are shorter, moments can feel wider. A cup of warm tea, a soft light in a dark room, the sound of wind outside. These small experiences gain weight and meaning. Winter does not offer more. It offers less, and in that less there is room to breathe. As you rest here, let your breath follow the season. Slow, unforced, lengthening naturally with each exhale. Short days do not mean something is missing. They mean the world is practicing stillness, and you are invited to practice with it, one calm breath at a time. Cold air behaves differently from warm air, and winter is shaped by that quiet difference. As air cools, its molecules slow down. They move less energetically, drifting closer together. This makes cold air denser, heavier, more likely to settle low against the ground. Warm air rises, restless and buoyant. Cold air prefers stillness. Because of this, winter air often feels calm, especially at night. Sound travels farther and softer through it. Smells linger longer. Even movement seems to slow as the atmosphere becomes more stable. There is less vertical motion, fewer sudden lifts and drops. The sky feels held in place, as if resting on the landscape rather than floating above it. Cold air also carries less moisture. With less water vapour suspended inside it, the atmosphere becomes clearer. This clarity sharpens edges while quieting noise, creating that familiar winter feeling of clean distance. Stars appear brighter. Moonlight feels crisper. Silence seems to have weight. In meteorology, this settling of cold air creates temperature inversions, moments when colder air rests beneath warmer layers. These inversions act like gentle lids, holding everything beneath them. Fog forms, frost settles. The world becomes enclosed, wrapped in its own small climate. Nothing is rushing upward. Everything is allowed to stay where it is. Your body understands this instinctively. In colder air, muscles relax inward. Movements become smaller, more efficient. Energy is saved. Even thoughts can feel heavier, slower, less inclined to scatter. This is not dullness. It is conservation, a natural response to an environment that asks for care rather than speed. As you listen, imagine the air around you becoming calm and dense, like a soft blanket settling. Each breath moves through it without resistance. There is no pressure to rise, to lift, to strive. Like winter air, you're allowed to rest low and steady, held gently by the quiet physics of the season. Snow begins far above the ground, inside cold clouds where tiny droplets of water slow down enough to change their form. Instead of remaining liquid, they arrange themselves into delicate crystals. each one shaped by temperature, humidity, and time. No two are exactly the same, yet all follow the same quiet rules of physics. Order emerging softly from cold air. As snowflakes grow, they drift downward slowly, guided more by gravity than urgency. They tumble and turn, catching light briefly before fading back into shadow. By the time they reach the ground, they have already spent a long while simply falling. Snow is patient by nature. It does not hurry to arrive. When snow settles, it transforms sound. The tiny air pockets between flakes absorb vibrations, softening footsteps, traffic, voices. Familiar noises lose their sharp edges. The world becomes muted, as if wrapped in fabric. This is why snowy nights often feel so still. Silence is not the absence of sound, but its gentle diffusion. Scientifically, this quiet is measurable. Snow-covered landscapes reflect light and dampen noise more effectively than bare ground. But emotionally, it feels like something more. Like the environment itself has chosen to lower its voice. Even the mind seems to follow, letting thoughts land more softly, one by one. Snow also preserves. Beneath its surface, soil remains warmer than the air above. Seeds wait, roots rest, insects pause their movement. Snow protects by covering, by insulating, by staying. What looks like emptiness is actually shelter. As you imagine snow falling, let it fall inside you too. Let each thought descend slowly without needing to stick. Let the quiet spread gently, not forcing silence, but allowing it. Snow does not demand stillness, it offers it. And in that offering, the world becomes a place where rest feels natural and safe. Winter nights carry a different kind of quiet. It is not sudden or absolute, but layered and deep. Many of the small sounds that fill warmer evenings simply fade away. Insects grow still. Leaves no longer rustle. Even water moves more slowly, thickened by cold. What remains is a wide, open calm. Cold air changes how sound travels. Because it is denser, sound waves can move farther, yet fewer sounds are being made. This creates a sense of spaciousness, where the occasional noise, wind through bare branches, a distant footstep stands alone, unchallenged by background hum. Silence feels intentional, as if carefully arranged. Human activity also slows after dark in winter. Fewer people linger outside. Lights dim earlier, conversations retreat indoors. The world contracts into pockets of warmth and shadow, leaving large spaces in between untouched. These untouched spaces are where winter's quiet lives. There is a reason winter nights often feel contemplative. Without constant noise, the mind has less to react to. Thoughts stretch out, unbroken. Attention drifts inward, not because it must, but because nothing pulls it outward. Stillness becomes the default state. You may notice this happening now. The words arrive, and between them there is space. The silence is not empty. It is supportive, like darkness that allows sleep to deepen. Nothing interrupts you here. Nothing competes for your awareness. Winter nights teach that quiet is not something to create. It appears naturally when conditions allow it, when energy lowers, when movement softens, when the world feels safe enough to be still. As you rest, let the quiet of a winter night surround you, not pressing in but opening out, wide, gentle, steady. A silence you can lean into, knowing it will hold you without asking anything in return. Across winter landscapes, many animals respond to the cold, not by fighting it, but by cooperating with it. As temperatures fall and food becomes scarce, bodies adjust their rhythms, heart rates slow, metabolism lowers, movement becomes rare and deliberate. This is not weakness, it is efficiency shaped by time. Some animals enter hibernation, a deep extended state of rest where body temperature drops and energy use becomes minimal. Bears, ground squirrels, and bats retreat into sheltered spaces, carrying autumn's nourishment quietly through the long months of cold. Their bodies remember how to wait. They trust the season to pass. Others enter lighter states known as torpor. In these moments, rest is flexible. Breathing slows for hours or days, then gently returns when conditions allow. Birds, small mammals, and insects use this strategy, drifting in and out of stillness as the environment shifts. Winter becomes a conversation rather than a command. Even animals that remain active change their behaviour. Movement narrows, paths repeat. Energy is spent only when necessary. Everything unnecessary falls away. In this way, winter sharpens life instead of diminishing it. There is something deeply calming in knowing that rest is written into biology, that across forests, fields, and frozen ground, countless creatures are doing exactly what your body longs to do right now: slow down, conserve warmth, and wait without anxiety. You're not separate from this pattern. The same ancient signals that guide animals toward rest pass quietly through human nervous systems as well. The desire to sleep longer, to move less, to seek warmth and safety is not indulgence. It is alignment. As you listen, imagine these resting lives scattered gently across the planet, hidden dens, burrows beneath snow, wings folded close, hearts beating slowly, patiently. Winter is not empty of life. It is full of life choosing stillness, and you are allowed to join it. Beneath a smooth white surface, winter continues quietly. Snow covers the ground like a gentle seal, softening the world above while protecting what rests below. Under this layer, the soil does not freeze as deeply as the air suggests. Tiny pockets of warmth remain, held in place by trapped air and slow-moving molecules. Life pauses here, not stopped, but held. Roots remain alive in the dark. They do not grow upward or outward. They wait. Nutrients move slowly through them, like memories drifting through sleep. Insects curl into still shapes. Seeds rest in their shells, carrying entire forests inside something no larger than a thought. Nothing pushes forward. Nothing falls behind. Scientifically, this insulation matters. Snow prevents extreme temperature swings, keeping the ground more stable than the open air above. It is protection through stillness, a quiet solution shaped over millions of winters. What looks like emptiness is actually care. What looks like silence is preparation. If you imagine this space, it feels deep and unhurried. There is no light, no sound, no expectation. Time stretches wide beneath the snow. Processes slow until they are barely perceptible, and yet everything needed for spring remains intact, waiting without concern for when it will arrive. This is one of winter's most gentle lessons. Rest does not erase potential, it preserves it. By doing less, life protects what matters most. Energy is not wasted. It is saved, folded inward like warmth held close to the body. As you rest here, let yourself sink into that same feeling. There is nothing you need to solve tonight, nothing you need to become. Like the ground beneath snow, you can simply exist, supported by quiet, protected by stillness, trusting that motion will return when it is time. For now, this deep hidden rest is enough. Water changes its behaviour as winter arrives. As temperatures fall, the motion of water molecules slows. They vibrate less, drift closer together, and eventually settle into orderly patterns we recognise as ice. This transformation is not abrupt. It happens gradually, molecule by molecule, as energy leaves the system and calm takes its place. In liquid water, molecules move freely, sliding past one another in constant motion. In ice, they lock into position, forming stable structures that resist change. This shift is not a loss of energy, but a reorganization of it. Motion becomes structure. Movement becomes form. Winter invites matter itself to rest. One of water's quiet miracles appears here. Ice is less dense than liquid water, which means it floats. Lakes and rivers freeze from the top down, forming a protective lid that shields the water below from harsher cold. Beneath the ice, life continues in slow motion. Fish move gently. Microorganisms persist. The surface rests so the depths can endure. This physical property is essential to life on Earth. Without it, bodies of water would freeze solid, extinguishing ecosystems each winter. Instead, water chooses stability. It creates a boundary between cold air and living depths. Ice becomes both ending and beginning, barrier and shelter. You may notice how naturally this mirrors your own experience of rest. When movement slows, structure appears. When activity pauses, something steadier takes its place. Stillness can feel firm and supportive, not fragile. As you breathe, imagine your thoughts settling like water molecules in the cold, no longer rushing, no longer colliding, simply arranging themselves into quiet patterns. Winter teaches that slowing down does not mean breaking apart. Sometimes it means finding a shape that can hold you through the night. As winter deepens, lakes and ponds undergo a quiet transformation. The surface cools first, releasing heat into the cold air above. Water grows heavier as it cools, sinking gently until it reaches about 4 degrees Celsius, the point where it becomes densest. Below that temperature, something unusual happens. Water begins to expand again, becoming lighter, rising back toward the surface. This slow dance continues until the top layer finally freezes. Ice forms like a calm decision rather than a sudden event. It spreads outward, thin at first, then thickening over time. Once in place, it acts as a shield, separating the living water below from the sharp cold of winter air. Beneath the ice, temperatures remain stable. Movement slows, but it does not stop. Life continues quietly, protected by this natural boundary. Scientifically, this is one of winter's most elegant solutions. A lake seals itself just enough to survive. Ice limits heat loss, reduces evaporation, and blocks wind from stirring the depths. The surface rests so the interior can remain calm. It is not isolation, it is balance. Seen from above, a frozen lake appears still and empty. But beneath the surface there is gentle motion. Fish drift slowly. Microscopic life continues its subtle work. The lake breathes at a slower pace, conserving energy, waiting without urgency. There is comfort in this image. A reminder that rest can be layered, that you can be still on the surface while something steady continues underneath. You do not need to freeze completely to find peace. You only need a quiet boundary between yourself and the cold demands of the outside world. As you listen, imagine your thoughts becoming like a lake in winter. The surface grows calm and smooth. Beneath it, awareness remains soft and alive, undisturbed. Nothing presses in, nothing leaks out. You're gently sealed into rest, held by the same quiet physics that allows life to endure through the coldest nights. When winter air settles in, the sky often becomes clearer. Cold air holds less moisture than warm air, and with fewer water droplets suspended above, light travels more cleanly through the atmosphere. The result is a sky that feels deeper, darker, and more transparent. Stars appear sharper, more distinct, as if the distance between you and them has quietly narrowed. On cold nights, the atmosphere is often more stable. There is less rising warm air to blur the view, fewer turbulent currents bending light. This steadiness allows starlight to arrive with less distortion, making constellations easier to trace. Even familiar stars can seem newly defined, quietly bright against the dark. Winter skies have guided humans for thousands of years. Long before electric light softened the night, cold seasons offered some of the clearest views of the cosmos. People watched Orion climb higher, followed the steady motion of the planets, and measured time by the slow turning of the stars. Winter nights became moments of reflection, connecting stillness on Earth with movement far beyond it. There is a gentle contrast here. Below, the landscape rests. Above, the universe continues its vast motion. Galaxies drift, light travels, time unfolds. Winter does not stop the cosmos. It simply clears the air enough for us to notice it. As you imagine this sky, let your attention lift without effort. You do not need to search for patterns or names. Just the feeling of open space is enough. The stars do not demand understanding. They offer presence. In winter, the sky feels close and distant at the same time. Clear enough to see, far enough to inspire quiet awe. Let that balance settle into you, grounded and open, still and spacious, a calm place where your thoughts can rest as softly as starlight falling through cold air. Winter light has a distinct character. It feels paler, softer, sometimes almost blue. This is not imagination. When the sun sits low on the horizon, its light must pass through more of Earth's atmosphere before reaching the ground. Along the way, shorter wavelengths scatter, and the remaining light arrives cooler in tone, less intense, more diffuse. Shadows lengthen in winter. They stretch slowly across the landscape, gentle rather than sharp. Objects seem quieter in this light, their edges softened, their colours subdued. Even familiar places can appear changed, as if seen through a thin veil. The world looks calmer, not because it has lost detail, but because the light no longer insists on revealing everything at once. Scientifically, this low-angle sunlight spreads the same energy over a larger area, reducing warmth and brightness. Emotionally, it creates a feeling of spaciousness. The light does not push forward. It lingers, it rests, it allows the eyes to relax, the mind to slow, the day to unfold without urgency. Artists and photographers have long noticed this quality of winter light. It reveals texture gently, without glare. It invites stillness rather than attention. In the early morning or late afternoon, the sun seems to hover, suspended just above the horizon, as if reluctant to rise too high. You may notice how this kind of light affects your inner world. Bright, overhead light often asks for alertness. Soft, angled light encourages ease. In winter, the environment itself supports rest, offering visual calm that seeps inward. As you imagine this cool light around you, let it wash over your thoughts. Nothing needs to be sharply defined. Nothing needs to stand out. Like winter light, your awareness can remain broad and gentle, illuminating only what is necessary and leaving the rest comfortably in shadow. As winter approaches, many trees make a quiet decision. They release their leaves. What appears to be loss is, in truth, preparation. Leaves require water, sunlight, and energy to maintain. In winter, these resources become scarce. Rather than struggle, deciduous trees choose efficiency. They withdraw nutrients from their leaves, seal the connections, and let them fall. This process is slow and deliberate. Cells form protective layers where leaves attach, ensuring that the tree does not lose moisture or invite damage. What remains is a network of branches, exposed but resilient, carrying life inward rather than outward. Growth pauses. Preservation begins. Without leaves, trees conserve energy. They reduce surface area, limit evaporation, and protect themselves from snow accumulation that could snap heavy branches. Winter strips trees down to structure, revealing their essential form. In this simplicity there is strength. The falling leaves themselves become part of the cycle. They gather on the ground, forming a layer that insulates soil, feeds microorganisms, and returns nutrients to the earth. Nothing is wasted. Even letting go becomes a form of contribution. There is something deeply human in this pattern, knowing when to release what is no longer sustainable, understanding that rest sometimes requires reduction. Winter does not ask trees to be less alive. It asks them to be wise. As you rest, you might imagine yourself like a tree in winter, no longer reaching outward, no longer carrying unnecessary weight, just standing, quietly supported by roots you do not need to see. Let go of what does not belong in this moment. What remains is enough. In winter, forests become places of pause. Without leaves, the canopy opens and the sky slips quietly between branches. Light reaches the ground in thin, patient streams. Nothing crowds the air. Nothing rushes to fill the space. The forest stands exposed, but not vulnerable, resting. Beneath the surface, roots remain connected in vast hidden networks. Trees share nutrients slowly, almost imperceptibly, through fungi woven into the soil. This communication does not stop in winter. It simply becomes quieter. Messages move at the pace of cold earth, steady and unhurried. Life does not disappear. It lowers its voice. Animals that remain in the forest adjust their movements. Paths become narrow and familiar. Energy is spent carefully. Footsteps leave temporary marks in snow, then fade. The forest remembers briefly, then lets go. Nothing insists on permanence here. Sound behaves differently among bare trunks. With fewer leaves to catch it, sound travels farther, yet there is less to carry. Wind moves through branches with a hollow softness. A distant call echoes once, then settles. Silence becomes part of the structure, not an absence, but a presence holding everything together. If you imagine walking through this forest, there is no destination, no need to arrive anywhere. Each step feels complete on its own. The cold sharpens awareness while calming it. Breath rises and falls slowly, visible for a moment, then gone. This is the deepest rest winter offers, not sleep exactly, but suspension. A state where nothing is required and nothing is missing. The forest does not prepare actively for spring. It trusts that time will move when it is ready. As you rest here, let yourself become part of this quiet system. No growth, no retreat, just being held in place by stillness. The forest is not empty in winter. It is whole, complete, and deeply at ease. As winter settles into the world, it also settles quietly into the human body. Even surrounded by modern light and temperature control, biology still listens to ancient signals. Shorter days and longer nights reach deep into the nervous system, gently adjusting internal rhythms that evolved long before clocks or calendars. Hormones shift with the light. As darkness arrives earlier, the brain releases melatonin more readily, encouraging sleep and deeper rest. Alertness softens in the evenings. Morning wakefulness takes a little longer to arrive. This is not laziness or lack of discipline. It is the body responding exactly as it was designed to. Metabolism often slows slightly in colder months. Energy is conserved. Cravings for warmth and comfort increase, not as indulgence, but as regulation. Warm food, layered clothing, and quiet spaces all support the body's effort to maintain balance in a colder environment. These instincts are protective, steadying, deeply intelligent. Muscles too respond to winter. Movements become smaller, more economical. There is less unnecessary motion, less outward display. The body prefers efficiency over expression. This inward focus can feel unfamiliar in a culture that values constant output, but it is a natural phase, not a problem to fix. Emotionally, winter can bring a gentle introspection. With fewer external stimuli, attention drifts inward. Memories surface more easily. Thoughts slow and stretch. This does not mean something is wrong. It means the mind has space again. As you listen, notice how little effort your body requires right now. Breathing continues without instruction. The heart keeps its calm rhythm. Warmth gathers where it is needed. You do not have to guide any of this. Like winter itself, your body knows how to adjust, how to rest, how to wait patiently in the quiet. In winter, the desire for warmth grows stronger, and this craving is deeply rooted in biology. Cold environments signal the body to protect its core temperature, and one of the simplest ways to do this is by seeking heat. Warmth relaxes muscles, widens blood vessels near the skin, and creates a sense of safety that the nervous system recognizes immediately. From a neurological perspective, warmth reduces stress signals. When the body's cold, it must work harder to maintain balance. This effort activates alert systems meant for survival. Heat, by contrast, tells the brain that conditions are stable, that it is safe to soften vigilance. This is why a warm blanket, a heated room, or a cup of something warm can feel so deeply comforting on a winter night. There is also an emotional layer to this craving. Throughout human history, warmth meant closeness, firelight, shared spaces, protection from darkness and cold. These associations remain quietly embedded in the mind. When winter arrives, the pull toward warmth is also a pull toward connection and rest. Scientifically, warmth encourages parasympathetic activity, the branch of the nervous system responsible for calm, digestion, and sleep. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, muscles release their grip. The body receives permission to let go of alertness and drift toward rest. As you lie here now, you may notice how small changes in temperature affect your comfort. A slightly warmer space, covered hands, relaxed shoulders. These are not luxuries, they are signals that help your body settle into sleep more easily. Let yourself respond to that instinct without judgment. Winter is not a time to resist comfort. It is a time to accept it, to let warmth gather around you inside and out until effort dissolves and rest feels like the most natural state in the world. Long before the winters you recognize, Earth experienced colder seasons on a much larger scale. Ice ages came and went slowly, stretching across thousands and even millions of years. These were not sudden freezes, but gradual shifts in climate driven by orbital changes, shifting continents, and subtle variations in sunlight. The planet cooled patiently, layer by layer. During these ancient winters, ice sheets spread across vast regions, reshaping landscapes as they moved. They carved valleys, redirected rivers, and pressed the ground beneath them into new forms. Yet even in these deep cold periods, life endured. Forests retreated and returned. Animals adapted, migrated, or waited. The planet never stopped breathing. It simply slowed its breath. What is remarkable is how gentle these massive changes were in their timing. An ice age did not arrive in a single lifetime. It unfolded so slowly that generations of life adjusted without knowing the full story. Cold increased by degrees, not shocks. This gradual pace allowed ecosystems to bend rather than break. Winter, even on this vast scale, was not destruction. It was reorganization, a rebalancing of energy across the planet. When warmth eventually returned, it did so just as slowly, releasing stored water, opening new paths, and allowing life to expand again. There is comfort in this perspective. It reminds us that cold and rest are not emergencies in nature. They are phases, temporary states within much larger cycles. The Earth has entered winter many times before, and each time it found its way forward. As you rest, imagine time moving at this gentle pace. Nothing rushing you, nothing demanding immediate change. Like the planet itself, you're allowed to move slowly, to cool gently, to trust that rest is part of a cycle far larger than any single night. Glaciers look frozen and still, but they are always moving. Their motion is so slow that it disappears into time, measured not in steps or breaths, but in years. Snow falls, compresses, and becomes ice. Layer upon layer gathers weight, and under that pressure the ice begins to flow. Not quickly, not forcefully, just enough to keep going. This movement happens because ice, under long and steady pressure, behaves like a very thick liquid. It bends, it creeps, it slides over rock with patient persistence. A glacier may advance only a few centimeters a day, sometimes less. Yet, Over centuries, it reshapes mountains, smooths stone, and carries entire landscapes within it. In winter, glaciers feel like the ultimate expression of rest in motion. Nothing about them suggests urgency. Their power comes from consistency, not speed. They do not rush toward change. They arrive when they arrive. Valleys form not through effort, but through time allowed to do its work. Beneath a glacier, the ground is protected from sudden temperature shifts. Above it, the surface reflects sunlight back into the sky, cooling the air further. Glaciers help stabilize climate, acting as reservoirs of cold and memory. Each layer of ice records a season, a snowfall, a moment that once drifted down quietly from the sky. There is something deeply calming in this scale of movement. It reminds us that progress does not have to be visible to be real. That change can happen even while everything feels still. Winter teaches this lesson gently, through ice that moves without announcing itself. As you rest, imagine your own thoughts moving like a glacier, so slow they feel still, so steady they require no attention, nothing to push, nothing to fix, just time passing quietly, shaping rest into something strong enough to carry you through the night. Ice has a memory. Layer by layer, it holds the past without effort or intention. Snow falls, settles, and is gently pressed into ice, trapping tiny pockets of air inside. These bubbles are quiet witnesses. They contain breaths of ancient atmospheres, fragments of winters that passed long before human thought learned how to measure time. Deep within glaciers and polar ice sheets, scientists read these layers like pages. Each one marks a season, a snowfall, a year, temperature shifts, volcanic ash, subtle changes in the air. But you do not need the data to feel what ice is doing. Ice is remembering by staying still, by refusing to hurry. What feels most gentle about this is the pace. Ice does not record moments sharply, it smooths them. Time becomes soft inside it. Years blur into one another. Boundaries fade. Nothing insists on importance. Everything is held with equal care. Beneath this idea is a deeper comfort. The notion that memory does not always need motion to survive. That rest can preserve what matters just as well as activity. Ice teaches that slowing down does not erase experience. It keeps it safe. If you imagine lying inside this quiet preservation, there is no pressure, no future, no past demanding attention, only layers of calm stacked gently above and below you. Each breath joins the slow archive. Each exhale settles without trace. Winter offers this kind of memory too. Not sharp recollection, but softened awareness. The mind does not cling. It allows thoughts to pass, to settle, to be held lightly and then released. Nothing needs to be resolved tonight. Nothing needs to be remembered clearly. Like ice, you are allowed to hold time loosely. Let the moments blur. Let the night become one long, gentle layer of rest, storing nothing, asking nothing, simply existing in quiet continuity. Winter winds are shaped by balance rather than force. As land and ocean cool at different rates, air pressure shifts gently across the planet. Cold air, dense and heavy, settles closer to the surface. Warmer air remains lighter, rising where it can. Wind emerges not from aggression, but from this simple movement toward equilibrium. In winter, these pressure differences can feel sharper, yet the movement itself remains steady. Air flows from regions of higher pressure to lower pressure, seeking rest. The wind's direction and strength follow invisible contours, tracing the quiet architecture of the atmosphere. Even strong winter winds are part of a long, patient adjustment. Cold air holds its shape more firmly. This stability allows winds to travel cleanly, sometimes carrying sound across great distances. A distant train horn, a branch shifting far away, the low hum of the night. Winter air delivers these sounds softly and clearly, then lets them fade. Winds also shape clouds and snowfall. They guide moisture into slow spirals, lift it gently, then allow it to fall. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. Winter weather, for all its power, remains deeply ordered. You may notice how wind feels different in winter. It does not swirl unpredictably like summer air. It moves in clean lines, sliding across open spaces, bending trees without shaking them apart. There is a sense of direction, even when the path is long. As you listen, imagine wind passing by without touching you, present, but not invasive. Like thoughts that move through the mind without staying, winter teaches that motion does not have to disturb stillness. It can exist alongside it, adjusting quietly until balance is restored. Winter clouds are quieter than their summer counterparts. They do not rise tall and dramatic. Instead, they spread low and wide, carrying cold air and tiny droplets that move slowly through them. Inside these clouds, water vapour cools enough to change form, joining dust or pollen particles and becoming ice crystals. As these crystals drift and collide, they grow. They branch and connect, forming the beginnings of snowflakes. The process is delicate. Temperature and humidity must align just right. Too warm and the crystals melt. Too dry and they never form at all. Snow requires balance. Unlike rain, snow falls gently. Each flake meets resistance from the air, slowing its descent. It tumbles rather than drops. This gives snowfall its familiar softness. Time stretches as flakes fall, creating the feeling that the sky itself is resting. These clouds often cover the sky completely, dimming light and smoothing contrast. The world beneath them feels enclosed, protected from extremes. Sound softens, shadows fade, everything becomes evenly lit, evenly calm. There is something comforting about this uniformity. Without sharp light or sudden weather, attention relaxes. The mind no longer tracks change. It rests inside consistency. As you imagine these clouds above you, let them gather gently. They do not threaten, they do not rush. They simply hold what is ready to fall. When release comes, it is quiet and unhurried. Like these clouds, you do not need to produce anything tonight. You only need to exist, supported by conditions that allow stillness. Let the weight of the world above you feel light, like snow waiting patiently to drift down and disappear. Each snowflake begins as a simple structure, guided by physics rather than intention. As an ice crystal forms, water molecules arrange themselves into hexagonal patterns, a natural result of how hydrogen bonds behave in cold conditions. This six-sided symmetry is quiet and consistent, repeating itself countless times across winter skies. As a snowflake falls, it passes through layers of air with slightly different temperatures and humidity. These changes shape its growth. Branches extend, split, and refine themselves in response. No two snowflakes follow exactly the same path, and so no two emerge identical. Difference is not designed, it is allowed. There is a calm beauty in this process. Order forms without effort. Complexity appears without planning. Snowflakes are not crafted, they unfold. Each one carries the record of its journey, written into its shape by nothing more than environment and time. When snow settles, this intricate geometry disappears into the whole. Individual patterns vanish beneath the collective surface. What was once detailed becomes smooth and quiet. The world does not ask us to notice every detail. It offers them, then lets them go. This balance between structure and release is deeply restful. It reminds us that not everything needs to be held or remembered. Some things exist beautifully for a moment, then dissolve into calm. As you rest, imagine your thoughts forming like snowflakes, briefly structured, gently shaped, then settling, merging into stillness. There is no need to follow each one. The mind knows how to smooth itself, just as snow knows how to soften the land. As winter deepens, night arrives sooner, almost without ceremony. Afternoon light fades quietly, and evening settles in while the day still feels young. This early darkness is not an intrusion. It is a signal, one the body has learned to recognize over countless generations. Inside the brain, diminishing light gently shifts the balance of wakefulness and rest. The eyes send softer signals. The nervous system begins to ease its alertness. Melatonin rises, not suddenly, but like a tide returning to shore. The body prepares itself for longer stretches of sleep, deeper rest, slower repair. Circadian rhythms, the internal clocks that guide sleep and waking, respond more to light than to time. In winter, these rhythms stretch. Nights feel longer not only because the sun sets earlier, but because the body itself widens the space for rest. There is less pressure to remain awake, less resistance to letting go. Culturally, winter nights have always shaped human behaviour. Work ended earlier, fires were lit, stories replaced labour, darkness invited stillness and closeness. Even now, with artificial light extending our days, the body remembers this older pattern. It still leans toward rest when night falls early. You may notice this pull now, a soft heaviness behind the eyes, a sense that activity is no longer required. Thoughts slow as if responding to a cue older than language. Night coming early is not something taken from the day. It is something offered to the night. More time for quiet, more space for sleep, more permission to stop doing and simply be. As you settle into this darkness, let it feel natural. Let the night arrive without resistance. Winter is reminding you that rest does not need to be earned. Sometimes it simply arrives earlier, waiting patiently for you to follow. When winter cold spreads across the land, humans have always gathered closer together. Long before modern heating, warmth came from shared sources. Fires built carefully, tended slowly, watched through long nights. Around these small centres of heat, people sat, spoke quietly, or rested in silence. Winter shaped not only survival, but togetherness. Fire offered more than temperature. Its steady light softened darkness and gave the eyes a place to rest. Flames moved slowly, predictably, without urgency. Watching them required no effort. Attention could drift in and out, carried by the gentle rhythm of rising heat and falling embers. This kind of focus calmed the nervous system, much like slow breathing does. Even today, the body responds to this ancient pattern. Warm light in a dark room, a steady source of heat nearby, the sense of enclosure and safety. All of these signal that vigilance can fade. The brain recognizes the environment as stable. Muscles loosen. Thoughts grow quieter. Winter encouraged humans to narrow their worlds. Travel slowed. Tasks became fewer and simpler. Social circles tightened. In this narrowing, life gained depth. Conversation stretched. Silence became comfortable. The season did not isolate people. It drew them inward, toward what mattered most. You may feel this instinct even now. A desire for warmth, for a contained space, for gentle light rather than brightness. These are not habits learned recently. They are echoes of countless winters survived through patience and care. As you rest, imagine yourself near a quiet source of warmth. Nothing crackling loudly, nothing demanding attention, just a steady presence that holds the space around you. Winter has always known how to bring humans together, not through urgency, but through shared calm. Let that calm settle around you now, simple and enduring. Somewhere in winter, there is a single window glowing softly against the dark. Outside, the cold settles into streets and fields. Inside, a quiet light remains steady. It does not shine far. It does not announce itself. It simply stays on, holding a small pocket of warmth in a vast resting world. This image carries a deep calm because it mirrors something fundamental. In winter, life does not spread outward. It concentrates. Energy gathers into smaller spaces, where it can be protected and sustained. A lit window at night is not defying the darkness, it is cooperating with it, creating balance rather than contrast. Scientifically, this narrowing makes sense. When temperatures drop, systems become more efficient by reducing exposure. Heat stays where walls are thick. Light stays where it is needed. Movement becomes intentional. Nothing leaks unnecessarily into the cold. Stability comes from containment. Emotionally, this image feels safe, a reminder that rest does not require vastness. It requires boundaries, a place where you are held, where nothing is expected, where the world outside can remain distant without being threatening. The darkness does not press in, it simply surrounds quietly. If you imagine yourself inside that lit space, there is no schedule, no urgency. Perhaps a chair, a blanket, the sound of wind far away. Perhaps nothing at all, just presence, just warmth, just time passing slowly enough to be almost unnoticeable. This is one of winter's deepest gifts, the permission to shrink your world to what can be comfortably held, to let the rest fade without concern. You do not need to reach outward tonight. You're already where you need to be. As you rest, let your awareness become that quiet window, small, steady, calm. The cold world can exist beyond you, doing what it does. Inside, there is nothing to prove, nothing to prepare, only rest, glowing softly, held in the dark. Winter is not separate from the rest of the year. It is part of a larger motion, like breathing stretched across months instead of seconds. Summer expands outward, warm and expressive, like an exhale. Winter draws inward, cool and contained, like a long inhale. Neither is complete without the other. Seen this way, the seasons are not changes to endure, but movements to follow. Energy flows out, then returns. Growth rises, then rests. Nothing is meant to stay fully open all the time. Even the planet knows when to pause, when to gather itself before moving again. In physics and biology, cycles like this appear everywhere. Hearts beat, tides rise and fall, cells divide, then repair. Activity is always paired with rest. Winter is simply the most visible expression of this truth, written across landscapes and skies. What feels especially calming about winter is how clearly it marks the inward phase. There is no confusion about what is expected. The world itself signals that it is time to slow down. Light fades, temperatures fall, movement decreases. The environment supports rest rather than resisting it. You can feel this rhythm in your own body if you listen gently. Each breath arrives, expands, then leaves. Between breaths there is a pause. That pause is not empty, it is necessary. Winter lives in that pause, extended and patient. As you lie here, there is nothing you need to push toward, nothing you need to finish tonight. This moment belongs to the inward movement, to gathering, to quiet. Let winter be the breath that draws everything softly back towards center. Let your thoughts follow that motion, moving inward, slowing naturally until they rest in the calm space where nothing needs to happen at all. Winter has a way of loosening the grip of the present moment. With fewer demands from the outside world, the mind begins to wander gently through memory. Not sharply, not insistently, but softly, like light reflecting off snow. Cold air slows movement, and in that slowing, thoughts stretch out and drift more freely. Neurologically, stillness creates space for the brain's default networks to emerge. These are the patterns that surface when we are not solving problems or reacting to stimulation. Memory, imagination, and quiet reflection begin to flow together. Winter supports this state naturally, reducing noise, activity, and interruption. Memories in winter often feel different. They arrive without urgency. They are less about detail and more about atmosphere, a feeling, a colour, a sense of warmth remembered against cold. The mind does not demand accuracy. It allows impressions to float, then fade. There is comfort in this softness. The brain is not trying to organize or resolve. It is simply moving slowly through familiar internal landscapes, like walking through a quiet place you already know well. Nothing surprises you here. Nothing needs to be explained. Cold itself contributes to this effect. When the body is still and warm while the environment is cold, attention turns inward. The contrast creates a sense of enclosure. Thoughts remain close, contained, less likely to scatter. As you listen, you may notice memories appearing briefly, then dissolving. There is no need to follow them. They are not messages. They are echoes passing through a calm space. Winter does not ask us to remember clearly. It allows us to remember gently, to let the past exist without pulling us away from rest. Like snow covering familiar ground, winter softens memory, making it safe to walk through without getting lost. After the longest night, something subtle begins to change. It is almost imperceptible at first. The sun lingers a moment longer in the sky. Morning light arrives just a little earlier than it did before. No announcement is made. Winter does not rush its transitions. Light returns quietly, one small measure at a time. This gradual shift follows the solstice, when the balance between darkness and light reaches its deepest point. From there, the days lengthen by seconds, then minutes, unfolding at a pace too gentle to notice without patience. The planet turns, steady and precise, allowing brightness to grow without disruption. What is calming about this return is its lack of urgency. There is no sudden brightness, no demand to wake or move faster. Light comes back the way rest came in, slowly, respectfully, without pressure. Winter holds onto its quiet even as change begins. Biologically, the body responds in kind. Sleep remains deep. Energy does not surge all at once. The nervous system stays relaxed, adjusting gradually to the subtle increase in daylight. This protects balance, preventing shock or strain. Change is absorbed rather than resisted. There is a quiet lesson here. Growth does not need to arrive loudly to be real. Progress can be so gentle it almost feels like rest continuing. Winter teaches that transitions can be soft, that movement does not have to break stillness. As you rest, imagine light returning in this way inside you. Not as alertness, not as effort, but as a faint warmth somewhere distant. You do not need to reach for it. It will arrive when it is ready. For now, winter remains present. Darkness still holds the night, and within that holding, light waits patiently, knowing there is no need to hurry. Winter is not unique to Earth. Across the solar system and beyond, other worlds experience their own versions of cold, darkness, and seasonal pause. Each one follows the same universal laws, yet expresses them in its own quiet way. Thinking about these distant winters can feel strangely calming, as if rest itself is written into the fabric of the universe. On Mars, winter brings temperatures so cold that carbon dioxide freezes directly out of the air, forming dry ice at the poles. The atmosphere thins slightly as this frozen gas settles onto the surface. The planet grows quieter, its winds changing direction, its skies clearing. Even an entire world can hold its breath. On Saturn's moon Titan, winter means long years of dim sunlight and deep cold. Methane clouds drift slowly. Lakes of liquid hydrocarbons rest beneath a pale sky. Chemical processes continue, but at an unhurried pace, shaped by cold rather than heat. Time stretches wide there, measured in patience. Far beyond our solar system, exoplanets tilt and turn around distant stars, experiencing winters that may last decades or centuries. Some worlds may be locked in permanent cold, others swing between extremes of light and dark, and yet, wherever matter exists, it responds to cold in familiar ways. Motion slows, structures stabilize, systems conserve. This perspective widens winter beyond Earth. Rest is not a local habit. It is a cosmic pattern. When energy decreases, the universe does not collapse. It reorganizes. It becomes quieter, more ordered, more stable. As you imagine these distant winters, there is no need for detail, just the feeling of vastness, of countless worlds slowing down at different moments in time. You are not alone in this season of rest. The cosmos itself understands what it means to pause. Let that thought drift through you gently, a reminder that stillness is not small. It is shared, expansive, and deeply woven into the nature of existence. Between one snowfall and the next, there is a special kind of quiet. The air feels held, as if the world is waiting without anticipation. Snow on the ground absorbs sound, and without wind to stir it, the landscape rests in a deep, even stillness. Nothing moves quickly enough to break the calm. This silence is not empty. It is layered. Beneath it, small processes continue. Ice settling, trees adjusting, water shifting slowly beneath frozen surfaces. But none of this announces itself. The absence of noise allows awareness to soften. Attention no longer scans for change. It settles into what already is. Psychologically, this kind of quiet gives the mind permission to stop narrating. Without new input, thoughts lose momentum. The brain no longer needs to track, compare, or respond. It drifts naturally toward rest, carried by the steady presence of the moment. There is something reassuring about knowing that nothing is happening, not because things are finished, but because they are complete as they are. The world does not feel suspended in tension. It feels supported by patience. As you imagine this space between snowfalls, let yourself rest inside it. No beginning, no ending, just a pause wide enough to hold you. You do not need to listen for what comes next. Silence is enough. Winter offers this gift freely. A quiet interval where effort dissolves and awareness can rest without purpose. Let that interval extend gently through you now, unbroken and calm, like a landscape waiting peacefully beneath a still sky. Just as landscapes slow in winter, the mind has its own seasonal rhythm. When stimulation decreases and the world grows quieter, thought naturally shifts from doing to being. There is less urgency to plan, analyze, or respond. Attention turns inward, not out of effort, but because there is finally space. Neuroscience shows that when external demands fade, the brain's activity becomes more rhythmic and less fragmented. Networks associated with reflection and emotional processing take over from those used for problem solving. This is not inactivity. It is a different mode of awareness, one that favors rest, integration, and gentle insight. In this mental winter, thoughts arrive more slowly. They may feel heavier but also softer. Instead of sharp ideas, there are impressions, feelings without names, images without stories. The mind stops trying to organize everything into meaning and allows experience to exist as it is. This state can feel unfamiliar, especially if you are used to constant mental motion, but it is deeply restorative. Just as trees conserve energy by letting go of leaves, the mind conserves energy by letting go of unnecessary thinking. What remains is quieter, simpler, and more stable. You may notice moments now where words fade and only sensation remains, the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breath, the gentle presence of sound and silence. This is not distraction, it is arrival. Winter does not ask the mind to empty itself completely. It asks the mind to rest from effort, to stop reaching forward, to stop replaying backward, to exist in a narrow, peaceful range where nothing needs to be improved. As you drift here, allow your thoughts to slow without resistance. There is no need to hold on to them or push them away. Like winter itself, your mind knows how to become still when conditions are kind enough to let it. Earlier, a gentle question was placed beside you without asking for an answer. It wondered what happens when the world chooses rest instead of growth. Now, after moving through winter's quiet science, That question feels less like a mystery and more like a recognition. When nature rests, nothing falls apart. Systems stabilize, energy gathers, life reorganizes itself into forms that can endure. Winter shows this again and again, through soil protected by snow, animals sleeping without fear, water sealing itself so life can continue below. Rest is not the absence of function. It is a different function altogether. You can feel this truth in your own body. As effort fades, breathing continues. As thoughts slow, awareness remains. Nothing essential disappears when you stop pushing forward. Something steadier takes its place. The first question does not need a sentence as an answer. Its answer is experiential. It is the calm spreading through you now, the sense that nothing is being demanded, the feeling that the night is wide enough to hold you exactly as you are. Winter teaches by demonstration. It shows that slowing down is not a failure of momentum. It is alignment with a deeper rhythm, one that has carried the planet through countless cycles of light and dark without losing its way. As you rest here, let that understanding settle without words. The question has done its work. It can dissolve back into the quiet from which it came, leaving behind only a simple certainty. Rest belongs here, and so do you. There is a quiet reassurance in winter that is easy to miss. It does not speak loudly or insistently. It simply shows again and again that nothing bad happens when movement pauses. Trees stand without leaves and remain alive. Animals sleep and wake again. Rivers slow and do not forget how to flow. Stillness is not a risk. It is a condition life understands well. For many people, stillness can feel unfamiliar. The mind may wonder if something is being neglected, if time is being wasted. But winter offers a different perspective. It reminds us that not every moment is meant to be productive. Some moments are meant to be held untouched, like snow resting on the ground without leaving a mark. Biologically, your body already knows this. When you stop moving, it does not panic. The heart keeps its calm rhythm. Breathing finds a slower pace. Muscles soften their grip. Systems designed to repair and restore quietly take over. Nothing needs instruction. Nothing needs encouragement. Emotionally, permission is often the missing piece. Permission to stop thinking. Permission to rest without justification. Permission to exist without direction. Winter provides that permission simply by existing as it does, unapologetically slow, dim, and inward. As you lie here now, there is no role you need to fill, no identity you need to maintain, no future moment you need to prepare for. You're allowed to be exactly as you are in this moment without movement, without effort. Let that permission sink in, not as an idea, but as a feeling, like warmth spreading gently through cold air. Stillness does not need to be earned. Tonight, it is already yours. Winter never leaves all at once. It loosens its hold gradually, almost kindly. Cold mornings soften. Ice thins. Light lingers a little longer in the evening. Nothing dramatic announces the change. The season steps back the same way it arrived. Quietly, patiently, without urgency. This slow departure protects balance. Sudden warmth would shock roots, crack ice too quickly, disturb systems that have learned how to wait. Instead, winter releases its grip in stages, allowing life to adjust at its own pace. Rest is not taken away. It gently transforms. There is something deeply reassuring about this. Change does not have to feel like loss. It can feel like a gradual easing. The body understands this kind of transition. Muscles awaken slowly. Sleep remains deep even as energy begins to return. Nothing is forced. As you rest now, you do not need to anticipate what comes next. Winter teaches that the future arrives on its own. There is no need to hurry toward it. Time will open when it is ready. Let this idea settle. The night does not rush toward morning. It simply exists until light returns. You can do the same. Remain here without preparation, trusting that change knows how to find you when rest has done its work. From the smallest particles to the largest systems, rest appears again and again. Atoms vibrate, then settle. Waves rise, then fall. Hearts contract, then release. Life does not move in straight lines. It moves in rhythms, always pairing action with pause. Winter makes this pattern visible. It stretches the pause long enough for us to notice it. The planet rests. Ecosystems conserve. Bodies slow. Even the mind learns to follow, letting go of constant motion and returning to a steadier baseline. This rhythm is not optional. Without rest, systems break down. Repair requires stillness. Integration requires time. Winter is not an interruption of life's momentum. It is the condition that allows momentum to exist at all. As you breathe, you're participating in this universal pattern. Inhale, exhale. Between them, a quiet space. That space is where balance lives. Winter extends that space, inviting you to remain inside it a little longer. Nothing about this moment is wasted. Rest is doing exactly what it is meant to do. As winter loosens, cold does not vanish suddenly. It softens, edges blur. The air still carries chill, but it no longer feels absolute. Warmth begins to appear in small, believable ways. Sunlight on a wall, a thawing surface, a subtle change in scent. This fading does not erase winter's calm. It carries it forward. The quiet learned in cold seasons becomes part of what follows. Stillness leaves an imprint, shaping how movement returns. You can feel this within yourself. Even as awareness remains, effort does not return. There is no need to wake fully. The night still holds you. Cold can fade without pulling you back into action. Let any remaining tension soften. Not because you're making it happen, but because the environment allows it. Like ice melting at its own pace, relaxation arrives naturally when conditions are gentle enough. Nothing needs to be complete tonight. Let winter's calm dissolve slowly without changing your rest. Attention begins to narrow again, not toward thought, but toward sensation. The rise of your chest, the fall of your breath, the steady weight of your body supported by the surface beneath you. These simple signals are enough. Breath does not hurry. It arrives, stays briefly, then leaves. You do not need to follow it closely. Just knowing it is there is enough. Each exhale releases a little more effort, a little more holding. The world beyond this moment grows distant, sounds soften, thoughts lose definition. Awareness becomes smaller and calmer, like a light dimming itself without going out. Winter has guided you here gently. There is nothing left to consider, nothing left to understand. Only the comfort of being held by rhythm. Stay with this breath as long as it remains noticeable. When it fades from attention, let it go too. Everything has slowed to its simplest form. Breath, wait, quiet. The night holds steady, wide and patient. There is no edge to this moment, no direction it needs to take. Winter's story does not end. It dissolves into rest, into the place where effort no longer reaches and awareness can drift freely. You are not falling asleep. Sleep is arriving to you, gently, the way snow settles or light returns after the longest night. Nothing remains to be done. Nothing remains to be held. Everything flows. Sleep in that motion.